Hello and welcome to my channel, it's Debs here. I want to talk to you about a question that I was asked recently. Somebody asked, how do they love themselves and be confident? And clearly the reason that they were asking this question was because of how they felt. They really didn't like themselves, they had no confidence to go out in life and do the things that they wanted to do, and it really looked to them that finding a way to love themselves and finding a way to be confident would solve this problem and would have them feeling better and doing better in life. And how many times do we find ourselves in this situation? This is something that our mind does. Our mind creates a problem and then has us like a dog chasing our tail, trying to solve this problem because of the belief that if this problem was solved, then whatever this thing is that we want would be ours. And it's actually that loop that is stopping us from having what it is we want, stopping us from feeling the love that we are, stopping us from feeling the confidence that we all naturally have. Because it's almost like, if you think of it, we are love. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. So we are love. We are made of love. And it's like, we don't have to find a way. It's not like, how do I love myself? We do. It is our most natural state to love ourselves and be confident about doing the things that we want to do. So why is it that we don't feel like that? How do we get ourselves into that position, and how do we get ourselves out of it? Well, the reason we get ourselves into these things is because we have a thought that says we are not lovable. A thought arises in us that says, I'm not good enough, I did this thing wrong, something's wrong here, whatever. We have that kind of thought that arises in us, and it looks real. When a thought is in our mind, when we look at it, examine that thought, think into it, it becomes very, very real to us. It feels as if it is a truth that we now need to deal with. And one of the things to learn to understand, if we are asking this question, how do I love myself and become confident? The biggest thing that we need to do is look at the truth of who we are, understand who we truly are. Because trying to add this thing, trying to love ourselves on top of a misunderstanding isn't going to work. So it's literally like, okay, put that one to one side, this how do I love myself and become confident, and look at who am I? What am I? And when we begin to understand the truth of who we are thought generated. So these thoughts that we have that look real and true to us create who we are out in the world. They create our experience. They create what we will do next. They create this belief that we are not lovable and not confident. So if we take if we stop looking in that direction and begin to look at who are we, and then realize we are a collection of thoughts that we believe to be true. Then if we begin to question this thinking, if we begin to see that we don't have to believe a thought just because it's in our head. The previous video that I made, I talked about that more. I'll put the link to it in the show notes here. And if you haven't watched it after this one, go and watch that video about how we don't, just because a thought is in our head doesn't mean we have to think it. And this is our free will. The world that we live in, the way that we work, how this works is very, very counterintuitive, if you like. It's opposite to the way that it appears, which is why when we ask the question, how do I love myself and be confident, if we try to think of ways, if we look at ourselves, well, I'm beautiful, I did this amazing thing, I'm wonderful at that, it may help short term, but immediately the thought that I'm not good enough returns and re-arises. If we believe that thought again, we will be back to square one. And yet understanding that we never have to believe any thought. If we question it, if we look at it, if we don't just take it at face value, every single thought, because we live here in duality, every single thought it's like polarities. I'm not good enough and I am amazing are they're different degrees of the same thing. They're not totally different things. And we can be anywhere on that pole. So the minute if we have a thought, I am not good enough or I am not lovable, and we believe that thought, if we question it, if we look at that and ask questions about it, what we begin to see is this whole polarity of I am the most lovable person on the planet and I am unlovable are literally just poles, are marks, if you like, on the same continuum. And any one of these places on this continuum can be equally true, is equally true in any given moment. And so when we begin to see this and see that our free will is to have a thought and to put our attention on any thought that we want to bring to life. So we can do this. We can think a different thought, give life to a different thought, which will give us an entirely different experience. And when we realize this is continually what is going on, nothing that we think is good or bad or ultimate truth. It is just a place on one continuum or another. And at any point we can think something different. And as we begin to see what happens to us when we think differently, that's where our magic lies, because we have the power to think anything and to bring that thought to life. And it's not even that we have to do that. It's not like there's thought police out there and we have to do that all the time. It's not that we have to think positively all of the time, to think, on this end of the continuum, not this, all of the time. But the awareness that that is what is going on, really learning that that is what is happening to us moment to moment, that's what's going on. What we begin to see is the ability, the opportunity, it is within us to think something different if we want to. And that is how we learn to love ourselves and be confident, because we think in loving ways and confident ways. Because it's not that there is a thing and there is something about us that is unlovable that needs to be changed. It is that when we think loving thoughts towards ourselves, when we think about ourselves as loving and lovable, that's the experience we will have. When we think about ourselves as not good enough, not matching up, not, think, oh, I did this and it means this. It is our thinking that creates our reality and creates our experience. So as we learn to understand that and to see that the ability to think differently always exists, and that is, number one, it's going to happen to us naturally anyway. We have to work hard to hold thoughts in place. And when we stop doing that, they will move along. And if we stop thinking into those thoughts that are thinking against us, they will naturally pass and something else will arise. And we can deliberately choose to think in particular ways. One of the ways that I work with my clients is diving deeply into something called a soul contract. And an I am statement, like I am lovable, is incredibly powerful at creating that. If we can feel into that and know the truth of that. And creating a soul contract is a way of creating a set of I am statements that we can lean into, that we can come back to in these moments when we feel unlovable and feel as if we are not confident. We can come back to our I am statements and lean into, live into them, and they will create that experience for us out in the world. So it's an incredibly powerful thing to create, an incredibly powerful tool to have, to lean into. So I really hope that there has been something useful in this. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please do pop them below. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.